I often lead workshops on race, racism, and racial equity. In some of those sessions, white participants ask me an awkward but important question. Can people of color be racist? My short answer to this is no. The longer answer is that we have to talk about definitions and American racial history. The definition of racism has two parts. First, it is a bias against some groups of people because of the color of their skin. The second and critical element is the power to negatively influence the lives of people based on that skin bias. Again, bias plus power equals racism. Now, all of us, regardless of our skin color, have biased or prejudiced thoughts. As human beings, we develop these attitudes listening to our parents, our teachers, or the media. On the other hand, not all races of people in this country have historical power. When Europeans started coming to North America 5 centuries ago, they needed labor to construct roads and buildings, to clear land for farming, and to harvest crops. That labor was supplied by kidnapped African slaves and also by white indentured servants who were eventually able to pay off their servitude and be set free. Black slaves, on the other hand, were set into a system of perpetual slavery, as were the children born into that system. Added to the centuries of structural discrimination against black peoples on this continent, we have to talk about power. That is, power represented by laws that would keep those same people oppressed. In our early history as a country, slaves were officially counted as 5/8 of a person in order to give slaveholding states more representation in the federal government. However, that partial personhood did not come with the right to vote. After slavery was abolished at the end of the Civil War, prejudice against blacks, who were now free citizens, caused cities and states to write discriminatory laws, for example, poll taxes or literacy tests that limited access to the vote. Who wrote the laws? White men in power. We have to remember, women, white or black, were not allowed to vote in this country until 1920. The vestiges of these discriminatory laws, called Jim Crow laws, continue today, and they affect everything from banking and real estate to healthcare, education, and employment. Even though slavery hasn't existed for 1.5 centuries, we still note that current laws continue to be written by majority white legislatures, influenced by corporations led by nearly all white CEOs and boards of directors, and enforced by mostly white police departments. When we begin to understand that racism continues to stand because it has power that is supported by legal structures set in place over decades and even centuries, then we understand that without the element of power, the negative feelings held by people of color are simply prejudice and not racism. If you have questions about this emotional and complicated subject, contact us here at Feel Like You Belong. It's an important conversation to have.
We moved to Baltimore, Maryland after my mother won the diversity visa lottery. It was a lottery in the late 90s that was going on where foreigners from other countries could apply to live in the U.S. and eventually become U.S. citizens.